We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. This seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex.
That's Karoline Leavitt, the new White House press secretary. She's 27 years old, accomplished, good-looking, and great at her job. And that's why all the women on The View hate her. And I don't mean this in a basic dislike manner. They really hate her guts. They hate her so much they are willing to abandon feminist orthodoxy just to destroy her reputation. You may think that is over the top, but here is what the wise and very old Joy Behar thinks about Karoline.
Probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Whatever I'm saying, this is the first time that she's been she may be. But my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
But on the issue of the new media, because
Despite being strident feminists who fight for the rights of women every day by just existing, Joy Behar still thinks Karoline Leavitt got her job for being beautiful. She thinks that Trump just picked out the prettiest woman he could find and decided that she should be press secretary. She thinks this despite the fact that in his first term, his press secretary was Sean Spicer, a 49-year-old man. Was Sean also a 10? Or did Trump not know of any 10s he could appoint at the time? That is where this horrible logic falls apart. The good thing is that Joy got more than enough backlash for her disgraceful comments. But that did not stop Whoopi Goldberg from going for her own pound of flesh from Karoline Leavitt.
Young lady this is her first job. I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
And that is it, folks. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar have solved it. Wokeness is the reason why women can get jobs and why we literally enjoy anything. You may think the suffragette movement, which began over 100 years ago, might have something to do about it. But you would be totally wrong, according to Whoopi here. The only reason why women can get jobs in the White House is because of some social sciences theory of power that emerged in the early 2000s. If that sounds ridiculous to you, that is probably because it is. But that isn't the only ridiculous tidbit in that clip.
This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a person's world. So please stop using that phrase and talking about, because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that.
Really? What does Whoopi Goldberg mean when she says we? She didn't fight for anything. And by the time she was an adult and started working, both the Equal Pay Act and Title VII had come into effect for almost 20 years. She walked into a world where she was free as can be and made great success out of that world. But now, in her indispensable wisdom, she wants us to believe that those victories was won by woke activists? Really? Whoopi Goldberg? Is that even her real name? Turns out it's not. She adopted the name Goldberg because, according to her, it is part of her family and heritage. She says she is Jewish, despite the fact that she has no Jewish ancestor and doesn't practice the faith. She also says if you ask her how she's Jewish, that is a microaggression and offensive to her, because you'd never ask a white person that. Anyway, Another woman on The View, Sunny Hostin, has even brighter comments to share with us. Surely it doesn't come across as bitter and angry, right? Let's see.
Though is, she's saying that these people that are going to apply will meet their criteria. We understand that their criteria is woefully deficient and unserious. Right. I think that their real problem in this election, one of the real problems among the many, is the misinformation and disinformation that was disseminated on social media by these influencers and by these podcasters. Why are they qualified to sit in front in the White House briefing room and tell America what is going on with the country? Traditionally, to become a White House correspondent or to be in that briefing room, you had to have a journalism degree. Yeah. You had to have qualifications. Yeah. So I guess the rise of mediocrity is here to stay.
And she says that with absolutely zero irony. The View is literally an entertainment TV show that moonlights as a talking piece for the Democratic Party. Just minutes ago, Whoopi Goldberg said that wokeness is the reason why women have freedom, and Joy Behar followed up with an utterly misogynistic remark. The fact that all of this happened on this show and Sunny is now talking about the rise of mediocrity is just insane. And what's wrong with the press secretary deciding the standards that news organizations have to meet to be in the White House briefing room? It's not like she's taking every podcaster off the street and giving them a seat. She's just democratizing information, which is something The View would support if Biden was in office. However, since they know that Karoline wouldn't give passes to all their leftist buddies because they are deranged, they are slowly losing their mind. The good news is that at least one person on the show could steer them back from the edge of the cliff.
The mainstream media got a lot wrong in recent years. And while there are editorial standards, I don't think that we can definitively say, because you have this degree and you're with this outlet, you've never gotten news information wrong.
Well, I will say this. I feel a lot better when I know there are standards people have to meet.
Yeah, of course.
And so
qualifications
you can bring in whoever you want. The proof will be in the pudding. Mm-hmm. We can stand and say, this is terrible, but so we're going to wait and see what happens. And the minute it turns out to be state-run television or state-run information or state-run news, because, I disagree that people got stuff wrong. I don't know what people were looking for, because the people I talked to were not looking for the things that these folks were looking for. And now that they've got him, are they getting what they want? So that's just my opinion.
But even on the media front, we haven't gotten to this real quickly this week. The CIA came out and said that COVID very likely came from a lab leak. And the New York Times shut down coverage of that. They wouldn't publish an op-ed by a senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, saying that this was a credential theory. At the time I was at DOD and that was openly discussed, is a very real possibility.
Confidence by the CIA.
There is a fact that the media at times has gotten things wrong.
Listen,
so
it isn't about whether they get it wrong or right. It's what they do to correct it. That's the problem.
That does matter. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I want.
But it also matters that the CIA...
That's literally not what Whoopi Goldberg wants. She just stated that standards matter, but watched as her co-hosts ignored the fact that Karoline Leavitt literally said the White House has standards for independent media. At this point, it's obvious that The View just wants to abuse and rubbish every effort this White House makes. The only question that remains is why anyone still listens to them. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like and subscribe buttons. Goodbye, and see you on the next one.